Welcome to Dan the Road Trip Guy. I'm your host, Dan, and each week we'll embark on a new adventure, discovering memory and life lessons of our incredible guests. From everyday travelers to thrill seekers and everyone in between, this podcast is your front row seat to inspiring stories of passion, resilience, and the pursuit of happiness. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Well, it's Memorial Day weekend, and for my good friend Jeff Zerker, who's on with me, this means one thing to us: the Indianapolis 500, the 110th running tomorrow. As we've done for a number of years, Jeff and I are going to share our thoughts on the race this year. So I hope you enjoy this. Maybe you'll learn something. Don't hold us to everything we say because we have no researchers. We do it on our own. And sometimes the internet lets us down. Enjoy the show.
Well, hey, Dan, good day to you. Good rainy Saturday. We're hoping it doesn't translate into a rainy Sunday. I was looking at the forecast for the race, and it said maybe around 2 or 3 o'clock, there could be some issues, but after 4, maybe just cloudy. And of course, you'll be sitting there experiencing it, and I'll be wishing I was sitting there experiencing it. But it's fun to do our annual race podcast. So great to be with you.
Great to be with you. And at some point, we have to go to the Speedway together and sit side by side and do this, right?
That's true, and or in different turns. That way we can, have better perspective, broader perspective. We'll still text each other, I'm sure, even if we're sitting side by side.
Of course we will, because we've done that for years now.
Yeah, and you've got a new seating location this year, right?
Yeah, we're going to try something new. We're in the top row of the Tower Terrace. We should be able to see turns 4 and 1, and then some pit action.
Yeah, and when I have gone to the 500, other than my first trip, which was when Danny Sullivan won, but I've always sat in pit row, and it's you do have limited views of the turns, but it's great to watch the pit action there.
I don't think that was there for Danny Sullivan's spin to win, but you were.
I was, and I want to say I was sitting in turn 4, but I don't know. I can't remember. It was my first 500. I think it was the 75th 500. I believe that I got a neoprene, almost kind of shiny maroon hat with the braid, the braid across the bill that my dad got for me. That was a cool experience to go with my dad. Obviously, growing up in Indiana, the 500 is a big tradition and a big tradition for racing fans. So as you said in your other podcast about Memorial Day, it's crazy to believe that, it's this time of year again.
I know.
Goes by so quickly.
Yes, the years fly by. This is the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500 coming up tomorrow.
Yes, and as we're talking now, appropriately, maybe I'm doing laps in my house because we just got a new puppy. So I have a complete front row. We have 3 dogs now, and the veterans are not really wanting to give the rookie any line, so they're chasing her around a little bit, and she's squealing, and looks like her her back end's loose at times because she's skidding across the floor. But so I'll be practicing the race as we're doing this podcast here.
Well, let's talk about our rookies first. You want to?
Go ahead.
So we got Collette. He's in the number 4 with AJ Foyt Racing. Dennis Hauger, he's with Dale Coyne, and he was the Indy Next champ from last year. We've got Mick Schumacher, and people might recognize that name in the 47 car with Ray Hall Letterman. And then we've got Jacob Abel with Abel Racing out of Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Collette was up in toward the front 10th or 11th, right? And then got a penalty and got jumped back to the back row. Is that good racer and good car? So could have good results. Yeah,
and a good team. I believe he was in 7th, and due to some technical issue, he's been bumped to the back.
I think it'd be fascinating to watch Schumacher with his success in F1. Obviously Indy's a very different animal, and the cars are very different. I don't think we have time to get into that, but I know we've talked about that in the past. But experienced racer. It'll be fun. He's coming in as a rookie, but a different kind of rookie.
Yeah, and he's starting back there in position 27th, which starting in the back at Indy, that could be good or bad. You might want to just, if you're back there in the back, maybe just hold back a little bit and see what happens in turn 1.
Yeah, especially, we got rookies 27th, 29th, I think 30th for Jacob Abel. and then Colette in 30 seconds. So it could get rambunctious back there.
Yeah,
Like this puppy we have, just jumping all over the place.
absolutely. And let's mention we have one female racer,
Uh-huh.
Katherine
Yeah.
Legge. She's back again. Good to see her. She's trying to do the double and run
Yes.
the Indy 500 and then head off to Charlotte to run the Coke 600.
Right.
And that's a
And
short list of people who have tried that.
I think, is it Tony Stewart, the only one who's done every lap at both races? Is that accurate?
Yep, that's the only one. And Robbie Gordon tried it 5 times.
Well, and of course, should there be weather in Indianapolis, that would obviously hurt her opportunity, her chances to get to Charlotte on time.
Absolutely. So that's quite a logistical feat they're going to pull off.
And as you and I were talking earlier in the week, certainly a pallor hanging over the NASCAR series with Kyle Busch's pass.
That was very sad to read, and had just won a race, I think,
Right.
last week or week before.
Just won a truck series race, and I was reading about that appropriately, and not because he knew what was obviously going on in his life, but appropriately because this is how we should approach every day. He talked about how special that was, and you just don't know how many opportunities you're going to get to win a race, to live a day, to be with your kids. To every day's special, and it's unfortunate for his family. I think of his 2 children, and his son's quite the racer. But yeah, it'll be a different feel for that event this weekend.
Well, let's talk about the front row for a moment. I don't know if it's a surprise to anyone, but Alex Palou sitting on the pole, and then you've got Alexander Rossi, and then we got David Malukas, new young racer, past couple of years. He's with Penske now. He's in that familiar number 12, which Will Power piloted for years.
Yeah. Well, reading on Palou, when his dominance of late, right, as he's getting mentioned in the same breath as guys like AJ Foyt and Mario Andretti. I mean, that's rarefied air. And I know he's the odds-on favorite. Obviously, he's on the pole. Obviously, he's been a championship driver now for many years, and trying to do the repeat, and which is not common. I think Newgarden, Joseph Newgarden was the last guy to do that. Not too many years ago. Yeah.
Just a few years ago, Newgarden pulled off 2 and was going for a 3rd, and mechanical issues ended that. Palou is a 4-time champion, 21,
series.
23, 24, I think, and 25. He's going to be a hard man to beat.
Great that Rossi's in the race, too.
I was thinking about that as a team owner, driver. You qualify great, you're on the front row. Do you just sit out that last week and go, great car, great driver, but they're racers, so they want to get on the track.
That's right. And wasn't he just cleared Friday, I think?
He ran carb day on Friday and was just cleared, and he's on crutches, but as he said, keep the weight off, I guess, but he said in a race car, there's no weight issues, so he'll strap in and head out second. I had to think about the rules for a minute, because I was like, oh, they're going to the backup car. Does that mean he moves to the back? But I don't know, maybe that's the way it was years ago. I don't remember.
You've been watching this race now, and as you talked about again in that other podcast, for more than 50 years. Well, this will be the 50th anniversary of your first time to the track, correct?
It is, yeah, and I'm hoping it's not as rainy as it was in 1976.
Well, and then back, one more comment on Rossi and Ed Carpenter's team. Rasmussen there in row 5 with Ed. Obviously everybody would love to see Ed get one as a driver. That'd be special.
Absolutely. And then you got David Malukas sitting on the outside, and he is wanting to win. This young man, he is,
and he's on the right team to get a victory for sure with Penske.
He is on the right team. Interesting, in those first 2 rows, there's a team missing. That's the Andretti team.
Let's see, is Ericsson their top driver as far as position going in?
Yeah, Marcus Ericsson, but he's back in 17th. Will Powers in 19, and a guy we thought would be up near the front, Kyle Kirkwood, who's second in the season points, is back in 25th.
And like you said, starting in the back, right? Especially with those rookies, could get dangerous the first few turns to people settle in. And if there's any crazy conditions, which I know they don't run unless it's safe, but it does affect everything weather-wise, affect the track. as anybody who
Absolutely.
knows racing knows. So
Guy who's trying to redeem himself last year crashed on the warm-up lap is Scott McLaughlin.
yep, that's got to be tough. Casual race fans, and you're more serious of a fan than I am, but I, growing up in Indiana, 500 has always been very important to me. But casual race fans probably don't think about how much goes into getting a car ready, especially for this race. And then to go out at the beginning the drivers obviously are upset, but when they say they feel bad for their team, they really mean it because it is a team effort.
Yeah, they spend the whole month, right, getting ready for this race. Well, let's talk about winners. There are 9 past winners on the grid, including the guy who is still trying to break out from the 4-time winners, and that's Elio Castroneves. So he'll be going for win number 5 in the Indy 500.
Yeah, and I believe he got his 4th when he was in his late 40s.
Yeah.
After quite a decade plus after not being in the winner's circle. So I think all of us quote unquote old guys would love to see that. Although I'm sure there's some traditional race fans that don't want him to surpass a guy like AJ Foyt, for instance. But what a fan favorite. Glad he's in the race, even though he's not really, he's not racing full time like some of these drivers, but he's always a fan favorite. And then
Sato, he's a 2-time winner here.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he was going for 1 win, and he and Franchitti got together literally on the very last
late. Very,
lap.
very late. And obviously performs very well. Some guys just drive well at that track, right? It's just the feel or the setup or the team, all these things we talked about earlier. So, yeah, I expect him to do well, and certainly the experience of knowing how to win a race, right? A lot of these guys coming in, they're learning how to prepare for a race, but we have 9 guys who know how to win.
Yeah, and others on that list, of course, there's Newgarden. We mentioned him. Scott Dixon, Marcus Ericsson. He was 2nd last year. We got Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's back in a car this year.
Rossi. Is it Rossi, the last guy?
Yeah, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and then we got Alexander Rossi.
Ray is with the Aero McLaren team. So it's crazy when you look at the obviously there is a grid, there are qualifiers, but in racing is in the thousandths of a second. We know that too. But Palou at 2:32, and then you go all the way down to row where we're talking about Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's at 2:30, 2.02, so 0.202. So the margins are, and again, I think, as you said in the other podcast, you have to go to the race, right? Because you can see that on paper, you can watch it on TV, but until you hear it, I think, and feel it, especially where you're going to be sitting, just how close these cars are, the science and the guts and the experience that goes into making the necessary changes or strategies to win a race is really phenomenal. It's really a thing of beauty if you know what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And I'm looking at a couple other names here that we didn't quite mention, and that's Ferrucci and Connor Daly. Connor Daly ran extremely strong last year. This is Ferrucci is AJ's guy, and AJ knows how to race at Indianapolis.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think the sports books are putting Connor Daly at he's the odds on him are 3rd, only behind Palou and Pato O'Ward.
And Pato, he's kind of had a slow year this year starting out. We expected a little bit more, and he's finished a strong 2nd a couple years ago to Newgarden. Yeah, keep an eye on him.
He's due.
He is due to win this, and he's starting 6th.
He's in 6th, yeah. I was going to ask you, and I talk about this with my family all the time when we're watching a sporting event, and I say, I think this team or this golfer or this gymnast is going to win. I don't necessarily want that person to win, but I think they're going to win. In that vein, I'd love to hear from you. Number one, who do you think? All these drivers, most of them have a shot. But who do you think will win, and then who do you want to win?
Well, we always want Scott Dixon to win. We like Scott Dixon. He's a great competitor, and when he's interviewed, he's very gracious about things in the public eye. But I think what I would like to see is Daly or Ed Carpenter win. Yeah, and I think that would be fun. Now, who do I think is going to win? It's hard to say, but it is going to be hard to beat. Alex Palou.
I think he's going to win. And then until Ed Carpenter gets one, I'm always going to want Ed Carpenter to win. You've been watching racing far longer than I have. If Helio gets the fifth, is that great? Is that okay? Is that I wish he wouldn't have surpassed some of the old school drivers? What's it registering for you?
I think that would be exciting. He's, I believe, 51 years old.
He is. Yeah.
And records, they're meant to be broken. I think that might be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say the excitement he would bring to that place if he did would be crazy.
Yeah. And then another, a couple other favorites. I know it'd be fun to see a Ray Hall back in victory lane. Graham starting in 28th position. Obviously, folks who listen to this podcast know your relationship with Stingray Robb. So obviously, we're pulling for him as well.
Yeah, Stingray had a good start to the month of May, and then qualifying, I don't know, the car just seemed like it went away on him.
Yep.
Yeah, we know a few of these guys from Henry's days of working in the ladder system of IndyCar. And I should mention, up in 7th is Kiffin Simpson from the Cayman Islands, driving for Chip Ganassi. So, hey,
another
and
good team. So
he has come on strong here lately.
Yeah.
But you got Jacob Abel back there. We know the Abels.
Yeah, it's cool that he has his team's family owned. Yeah, Jacob Abel, that'd be cool because of his team is family owned, and it feels a little bit like Ed Carpenter in the early days, Louisville guy. Yeah. Speaking of teams, and I think maybe, one thing it'd be cool to hear from you, especially with Henry's experience in racing, and so many people, again, who just turn into this one event a year or racing casually don't understand or don't appreciate, I should say, the team aspect of it. But if you can talk about that for 15, 20 seconds, how important it is to be, on the track with teammates. Some of these guys have the power of multiple cars, and others are like Jacob Abel going solo.
But yeah, those multi-car teams giving feedback to one another. But it is just a huge team effort, and I think most people don't know what goes on behind the scenes with all these crew members, and they've got to be on their game too, because when these guys come to the pit stop, you got to be on your game. And we've seen guys fumble around with wheels and wheel nuts, and 2 seconds is going to cost you the race. Whole thing's a big team effort, all the way down to the people who transport these things and work tirelessly throughout the month of May.
Yep. And we get to soak it in, and the sights and sounds, and doing fun things like this, thinking about who might win, who we want to win. It's really a joy for me, and I know for you too. And we'll be looking forward to hearing from you from the track tomorrow, and hopefully without interruption because of the weather.
Yes, we hope we start at noon and we finish 3.5 hours later or something. I'll look forward to our constant text messages as we commentate throughout the race. And it's always good because you see things I don't know by only seeing one section of the track. You were telling me some things last year. I'm like, oh, dang. Well, Jeff, always a pleasure to talk with you.
Yes, sir, my friend. Enjoy the day, and greatest spectacle in racing.
Yes, greatest spectacle. Thank you for tuning in to Dan, the Road Trip Guy. I hope you enjoyed our journey today and the stories that were shared. If you have any thoughts or questions or stories of your own, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and family and help us to spread the joy of road trips and great conversations. Until next time, keep driving, keep exploring, and keep having those amazing conversations. Safe travels. And remember, you can find me on the internet at dantheroadtripguy.com.